The biggest lessons I've learned in my life are here. Through different topics, I'm going to inspire and motivate you to reach your success and your dreams. I'm so grateful that you're here on Journey to Success. So let's enjoy my next episode together.
Hi, Fabio. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Good. Very, very happy you're here.
Thank you.
All right. I was really looking forward to our conversation. So this is the first time actually I have as a guest a breast cancer survivor. So yeah, I'm just happy. Do you feel comfortable? Can we start? Tell me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super. So I'm going to start then. My first question is actually very simple and at the same time very important as well, since you have to revisit your past a bit like a time machine today. So can you please tell us how you discovered your cancer?
Oh my goodness. Yes. So I found the lump myself when I was 33 years old, and my daughter was just about a year old, and I was nursing at the time. So I wasn't sure if it was like an inflamed milk duct or if it was something to worry about. So I went to the doctor, had it checked out. I was hoping they would tell me it was nothing. And of course they found it right away. And they're like, no, this is something to watch. But they sent me to get an ultrasound. At that point, they were like, oh, it seems like it's called a fibroadenoma. So just a benign thing. They said, but we'll keep an eye on it. So I was 33 then, and I asked at that point if I needed to wean my daughter because a mammogram was unreliable for a nursing mom. So at that point, they said, no, just let her, nurse her as long as you were planning to, let her wean whenever you were ready, and we'll just do ultrasounds. So, come back in 6 months, we'll keep an eye on it. So for about 18 months, we just kept an eye on it. We kept checking it. After about 18 months, at that point, I had 5 ultrasounds and 3 mammograms.
Wow.
And they said that they were watching 3 different areas. There were a couple little areas of calcification. There was some increased blood flow, but we're just keeping an eye on things. There's nothing to worry about. And at one point they had said, well, we could probably go in and do a biopsy, but that's really invasive. So if you're the kind of person who can put this out of your mind and, just come back in 6 months, then we'll just keep an eye on it. But, if it's going to keep you awake, if it's going to worry you, then we'll do the biopsy. And I was like, well, I want to be that person who's not going to worry about it. So let's wait a few more months. And this was in May of 2010. So I had just turned 35 when I had that visit. And a couple months later, I had weaned my daughter at this point. She was, she'd already turned 2, and we were still just keeping an eye on it. And a couple months later, I think I was actually like putting her to bed. She was in the crib and I'm like laying on the floor and I'm trying to get comfortable. And all of a sudden I'd moved and I was like, wait a second. This spot had been the size of a pea in May. And this was in July. And it was like the size of a dime. And I was like, oh no, I'm not waiting until November. So I went back in July and, I kind of was of the mind of, even if you're telling me it's not cancer, I need to get it out of me because it's worrying me too much now. And at that point, they did a mammogram, they did the ultrasound, and as I'd had a bunch of these done already. I mean, we'd been watching it for a year and a half, and this time I knew something was different because they would take pictures and then say, "Oh, well, we just need the doctor to make sure that we have everything we need." And I'm like, "We've never done that step before, that's new." So, I'm on the table where they'd done the ultrasound, and even the mammogram woman had done it first. And the ultrasound lady was like, and I just need the doctor to take a look at these real quick and before you get off the table. And I was like, nope, that's all new. And sure enough, the doctor walked in and she was rolling a cart with her. And the first thing she said was, well, how old are you, honey? And I said, well, that's not a good way to start this. And she's like, no, it's not. And I said, well, I'm 35. And she said, well, that's good because you're young, you're strong, you can fight this. And this is definitely cancer. And I said, okay, well, let's get it out of me then.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Well, the approach of this doctor was very good anyway, right?
Yes, 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 yes. So yeah, she had
Wow.
already
So,
called my doctor to make sure that they could
wow.
do the biopsy that day, and that's when it all started.
So smooth. I mean, this remind me something
Mhm.
actually. So I had an episode myself as well, not so much big like yours, but I had this irregular heartbeat
Mhm.
from nowhere. Just I woke up one time and I had this irregular heartbeat, like look like my heart used to stop sometimes. Was
Mhm.
very very weird. So I want to check myself, have control and everything, but the public hospital say to me, yes, well, you are in a list, but you have to go back on winter time. So it was summer.
Mhm.
And I say, well, I'm not gonna wait. So your story actually it's relate a bit with mine because I didn't want to wait. So
Yeah.
what I did was, but they say to me, well, in this case, you have to go to a private doctor, but you have to spend a lot of money. Well, okay, I'm not gonna wait for this. It's
Mhm.
you never know, right? It's about my health. So okay, I did this quick uh, how can I say this quick visit at the
Mhm.
start, and they say to me, well, it's we can do it's there is no problem, but it can be something very normal about vitamin or something. I say, well, okay, but I want to do okay. So I did this test, and at the end we discovered that I had an irregular heartbeat, because evidently my heart was a little bit dirty, and
Mhm.
so I had to choose between an operation or just hoping that everything would be out, in a while with time,
Mhm.
just making sport, running, and would go his own. And but I remember that when I did the test, I did a lot of tests, and there was the first reaction from the doctors. They say, "Well, you have to sit here, and now we're gonna call the specialist." And I remember I was very worried. Say, "What do you mean you have to call the specialist? So there is something wrong then?"
Mhm.
No, we have to call the specialist. And I remember that the feeling was so, I don't know, like uh, I couldn't feel anymore my feet on the ground. Truly, I I saw so black.
Yeah, it
But
gets
then,
very surreal.
yeah, like, but then fortunately everything was okay. Just the doctor, they were around me. They couldn't talk so much about it. They were more technician. So everything was right. Then blah blah blah. Just make sport, so we don't need to operate you, etc. etc.
That's good.
But this situation that you say to me, right, truly remind me a bit about what happened with myself.
Mhm.
I have to be honest. This feeling of darkness right around you, like you don't know what you have to think, and it was just too much for me. And how was your feeling then? How did you feel when the doctor say to you, "Yes, you have cancer"? What was the feeling?
At that point, because I had been aware of that lump and, you're supposed to still do your monthly exams and those kinds of things, I had been aware of it for so long. At that point, I was just, I wasn't glad about it, but
Yeah,
I guess I was glad that I felt like I was finally being heard, that there was something wrong with my body. I mean, the doctor did tell me, she was like, the best thing you ever did was to ignore our advice and not come back in 6 months. You came back in 2 months instead of six. And she's like, the best thing you did was ignore us and come in when your body told you you needed to be here. So at that point, my take really was, well, okay, so then what's next? Like, how do I get it out of me? I mean, my kids were 2 and 4 at the time. And I mean, I was working, I was the sole income for my family. And I was like, I have too many other things that I need to do to waste time. So let's just get this
yeah.
taken care of because I need to be healthy. I need to see my kids grow up. So I didn't spend, I don't even think I cried about cancer. I think I cried maybe twice in that whole first year about the cancer,
Well, you're
because at
very
that point
strong.
I just needed it to be, and we needed to take care of it.
Yeah. I think maybe in your case, maybe it was more that you were worried about your children, I guess.
For sure. And having them, especially them being so young, there was
Yeah.
just no question that I was going to do whatever it took to be healthy for them.
Before we go through, if you're enjoying this podcast, please consider taking just 3 seconds to share it with someone else. It is a small gesture that could make a big difference in someone's day. Now, sit back and enjoy the rest of the episode. Yeah. Understand. For example, in my case, when happened that episode,
Mm-hmm.
I was just taking care about myself, right? But I guess once you have a family, a child, it change. It just you think about the person that you have close to you or people around you, so you don't think so much about yourself. Yes, of course you think about yourself, but not so much when you have a child, right? So
Yeah, the focus
I
definitely changes.
the focus, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, since you have been through this, so let's talk about how we can help others, especially women, right,
Mm-hmm.
to prevent breast cancer. So early detection is crucial,
Mm-hmm.
and you are an example about it. So can you share what are the symptoms of breast cancer, if there are actually?
It's kind of funny because the spot that I had, the lump that I was aware of, I actually did have an ache. I had a soreness there. And when
Hmm.
I first brought it up to my doctor, she's kind of joking. She's like, "Oh, it's actually good that there's pain there because the things that try to kill you generally don't hurt." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Okay.
But I did have pain, and I've had, unfortunately, I mean, the good news is I'm coming up on 13 years cancer free. That's in about 3
Wow.
weeks. I'll celebrate that 13 years.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, cancer free and healthy, which is great. But in that 13 years, and even before I had cancer, I've had so many friends who have been through breast cancer and unfortunately other types of cancer too. But everyone's symptoms are kind of different. Some people, they find their lump. Other people, it happens, when the doctor, it's a routine mammogram and something worrisome comes up, but they can't feel it. And even for me, the fact that I could feel it, when we had that year and a half of doing different ultrasounds and mammograms, there were times that even on the ultrasound, they're like, well, we can physically feel it, but we can't find it on this exam. So we know it's there, but we don't know what it is. Everyone's symptoms are kind of different. And unfortunately, I mean, I was lucky that I had a type of breast cancer that I had treatment options. But there are so many different types of breast cancer. Mine was estrogen and progesterone positive, which meant that I
All right.
could do chemo. I could do, hormone. I guess it's hormone blocking treatments that I was on medication for 10 years. But there's triple negative breast cancer that has much more limited options for treatment. It's surgery and chemo, those types of things. So breast cancer, unfortunately, is not a monolith. The experience is very different for a lot of women based on where the cancer is, when it's been discovered, whether it's spread and where it's spread, and those types of things. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of poison. There's radiation. There's
Yeah.
surgery. There's hormone blockers. Um, there's a lot of different treatment options depending on what type of breast cancer you have.
All right. All right. So to the question, like, how is breast cancer treated?
Mm.
I think you can answer only for yourself.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Mine, I had a bilateral mastectomy, because at that point I did have 3
Yeah.
cancerous tumors on one side, and being 35 and, having young kids, they basically said, you know, we had to make the decision to take off the healthy breast as well, which I was fine for because I said, unfortunately, breast cancer is a cancer that often comes back, it spreads, those kinds of things. And I
Yeah.
said, if I ever, God forbid, have to go through this again, I don't want to think, oh, maybe I should have done it differently the first time. I wanted to do everything as intense as possible the first time around in the hopes that I will never have to do this again. Right.
Yeah.
So I had the bilateral mastectomy, I did chemo, and then I did 10 years of hormone blocking treatment. But I did not have to do radiation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Catch it. Well, it's so weird. Like human being usually likes to prevent this kind of situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unplaceable situation. So, but I don't think there is a way to avoid this kind of cancer. It's not like that. Okay, I eat better, and then or I'm not gonna smoke, and then I'm not gonna have it. So in your case, I think it's something that just happens, right? Or maybe there is a kind of prevention in food or diet.
Yeah, so this was kind of interesting because at the time that I got sick, like I said, I was 35. I'd had two kids. I'd breastfed them both, and breastfeeding decreases the risk of breast
Mhm.
cancer. Um, but I was 35. I was a vegetarian. I was a runner.
Also,
We had taken all of the toxic chemicals out of our house. We cleaned the house with natural cleaners and vinegar. My kids wore cloth diapers and used glass bottles. We had done all these things to, like, on paper, to be very healthy, and I still got breast cancer at 35. We did the genetic screening, and while I do have breast cancer on both sides of my family, I don't have the genetic markers that make people more likely to get breast cancer. I don't have those genes, at least not in the tests that are available.
mhm.
um, so that you can spend a lot of time going, why me, what did I do wrong? And ultimately I decided kind of early on that was a waste of my energy, the trying to figure out why did this happen. Well, okay, I'm never going to be able to say, oh, if I'd done this differently, if I'd done that differently, maybe I wouldn't be here. All I could say was, well, this is what I got handed. This was my deck of cards
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah.
How am I going to play it? What am I going to do?
But it's very interesting. I'm actually discovering something about you.
Hmm.
Like, all right, so it's true about everything you said, but it looks like you felt about it because listen, you were very careful anyway.
Hmm.
You were sportive, and you look at your diet. You used to do genetic screening. I don't know. It looks like I don't know. Looks like you felt something. Like, I don't know, but it's just my feeling. But people don't used to be so much careful about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that having kids, you start to realize, like, oh, well, when it was just me, sure, I would eat junk food and I would, stay up late and do all the
Yeah,
things you do when you're, young.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden you become responsible for these small humans. And I immediately went, okay, well, what do I want the world to be like for them? How do I set them up to be healthy and strong? And um, my first child was a preemie, so he arrived about 6.5 weeks early. Um, so we became very cautious about what was he going to be exposed to and how could we help him be strong. And then his sister came along, and so we'd kind of already made a lot of those changes just to really focus on our health. And yet still cancer found me.
And tell me, how can breast cancer be cured? Well, in your case, because
Mhm.
as I understood, it can be different, for everyone.
Mhm.
So how can be cured? What was in your case the cure about it?
Um, it's interesting because some people say that you're not really cured, that you're only in remission. And I remember
Mm,
pretty early on, because I had the surgery first. So I had the bilateral mastectomy, and that was luckily the cancer hadn't spread. They took out some lymph nodes, did those kinds of things. There was no evidence of any cancer spread there. So at that point, I kind of asked one of my doctors, I was like, so at what point do I get to say I'm cured? Am I,
yeah.
in remission, cancer free, whatever? And she was like, you're already a survivor. She's like, the cancer is out of you. Everything else, this, before the chemo, before the hormone treatments, before
Wow.
all of that stuff, she's like, you're already cancer free. And I was like, okay, great. So, the cancer was physically out of my body, but then it was a matter of, with the chemo, it's about if there are any cancer cells that were missed, if there was some spread, how do we make sure, you put that poison in to kill them wherever they might have wandered in your body. The hormone treatment, my type of cancer, the thing that caused it to grow, the fuel for it was my own hormones, the estrogen, progesterone that I naturally produced as a woman. So those hormone blockers, that was 10 years. And the idea there was, if there's any cancer left in your body, we're just going to starve it. We're just
Yeah.
not going to let it have the fuel. So, that was menopause at 35 overnight, which was hard. there's a lot of side effects of all those treatments. But, the mantra in my household has always been, well, it's better than cancer. So,
Wow. 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 I'm going to put a little bit well, until now we talk about, how can I say, in a science way, right? How it works. But I mean, have you had faith as well, or let's say faith or law of attraction, or a positive way to think about it, that the cancer could be away, or you were just more factful about the fact that what was happening had to be gone because of the medicine?
a little bit of both, kind of all of the above. I
Right.
mean, I'm a psychologist by training. I have a PhD
Oh,
in social psychology. So the idea of
right.
mindset and how we approach things is certainly part of it. I think for me, I was surrounded. I had a huge network of friends and family and people who were just, checking on me and, offering to make my kids dinner and come clean my house. And
Yeah.
just being able to have that kind of support, especially through that first year, was hugely powerful. Um, Unfortunately, I did actually go through a divorce while I was in treatment too.
Oh.
Um,
Oh.
so it was a rough year. It was a rough year, but my ex
Oh.
husband and I were still great friends. We co-parent the kids well together. But the marriage couldn't withstand the cancer, you know. Um, but having that kind of network of friends and support, and the funny thing was, my oncologist, she was like, you have to learn to meditate. She's like, you have to do something about your stress levels. And I was like, what stress levels? I'm now a single mom with cancer. So of course there's no stress.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I learned to meditate. I focused on putting good nutrition in and those kinds of things. So yeah, I mean, I trusted the medicine, but I also trusted the people around me and the
Of
network I
course.
had built. Because, like I
Be
said, the
Yeah.
doctors had wanted me to wait, and I wasn't going to do it. So,
Well, be positive, get good energy, good people around you, can't be hurtful.
yeah.
So
I mean, my
just
whole life, people have joked that I'm kind of Pollyanna, that I can always find the positive side, and that used to really irritate me. And then one time, somebody was like, "Oh, you're just always so positive." I was like, "No, I'm not." I was like, "But if I was, the good thing would be." I was like, "Oh, there it is. I hear it. I'm totally, totally very positive. Got it."
all right. So, well, your life, I think, changed a lot. I mean, can you describe what your life was like before breast cancer, and how it has been after?
Yeah, I mean, before breast cancer, like I said, I was, mid 30s. I had a PhD. I was working. I had two small kids. I was
Yeah.
busy. I was, considering a run for public office. I was volunteering. I was engaged in all these different things, and then breast cancer. I mean, it brings your life kind of to a screeching halt because it has to be the thing that you focus on. Um, and then since then, like I said, it's been 13 years. I think the biggest change for me has really been focusing on what are the things that I can control and letting go of those things that I can't, because I was doing all the things right and I still got cancer, right?
Yeah.
I didn't control that, but I controlled how I responded to it. I controlled what I focused on about the outcome. I think the biggest change for me, the thing that I've tried to take away from that whole experience is,
Right.
and this is the thing as a coach, this is one of the things I focus on with my clients now is, what are these things that you actually can control? Because we love
Right.
to think that we control everything around us. I
Yeah.
mean, you're a high performer, you're a high achiever. We do all these things, and it's because of how I showed up or what I did. And I always say we actually only control two things. We control the stories we tell ourselves about things that have happened, So like, if you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off, you can decide that that person is a horrible person and they're an idiot and they were out there just to ruin your day. Or you can tell a story that, hey, maybe that person just found out their kid is sick and in the hospital and they didn't even see me and they're in a rush and it has nothing to do with me. And that story you tell impacts your own day. It doesn't impact that person. So we control what those stories mean, the stories we tell ourselves about things, and then we control how we respond to them, which is different than reacting. Like we don't control our reactions. Our reactions are those reflexes, those emotions, those come up. The reactions are what they are, but we get to control whether or not we respond based on those emotions, or if we take a deep breath and go, okay, this isn't what I expected or wanted, but I don't have to. I mean, yes, I might be angry, but I don't have to yell. Yes, I might be sad about this, but I don't have to then go be passive aggressive to somebody else or, slam the door and kick the dog. I don't have to do those things. I can choose to respond in a way that actually gets me towards my outcomes. So yeah, being told you have cancer at 35, I don't think it's ever good, but it's 35 with 2 kids. It's not great. But I learned that I was in control of those responses. And I'm not perfect at it. No, there's no such thing as perfect. Even now, I have moments where my emotions get the better of me. And I know, wait a second, this is one of the few things I do control. I control what I choose to believe about, why did somebody snap at me? Why did somebody say this thing? Are they having a bad day? Does it have anything to do with me? Probably not. We like to think that everything is about us. And most of the time, everyone's just out there in their own little world doing the best they can. So I'd say that's probably my biggest change is how the letting go of those things that I really have no control over.
I'm really impressed. Like it's a beautiful quote. Surely I'm gonna sign somewhere because I love it.
Thanks.
It's true. No, but it's totally true. You're right. You have not so much control about your life at the end. If you think about it, we just have a delusion. The feeling you have a control, but it's not true. But what you can really control, it's how you handle and how you respond. It's so good. Very beautiful. Truly, you made my day. It's beautiful. I love it, for real.
I'm so glad.
No, well. Wow. Well, we're in the end anyway, already. So is there anything else you would like to say before concluding? Tell me.
No, I think that's, like I was saying, I think that's just kind of the most powerful thing that we can remind ourselves of every day is that, we love to think that we're in control of everything around us. And it sounds like it's not a lot when you say, oh, there's only 2 things we control, but those 2 things are huge. The fact that we can decide what it means when something happens to us or around us, we get to decide the meaning that has, and we get to decide what energy, what focus, what time we devote to it. It ends up being really big.
Super. Well, we can close like that. Thank you so much, Benah. I'm so grateful you're here. You've been here, truly.
Thank you so much, Fabio. I really enjoyed it.
Nice. Thank you. See you soon, Benah. Here we are. Congratulations. You just finished my entire episode. So, the only thing I ask is to take a moment to give Journey to Success a rating. By the way, thank you so much for being here on Journey to Success. I'm very grateful. Thank you, and see you next time.